Alrighty, yeah. So we're gonna start episode 3. Got some pretty good topics to cover today. We have special guest Tristan, fitness and body magazine influencer, joining us today. So thanks for having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. That's usually the go-to when people ask, like, well, what do you do? I'm like, well, you know those guys that are walking on the beach with the 6-packs? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I help them get the 6-packs.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like, I am that guy.
Yeah, that's literally what I thought.
I'm that guy.
Yeah, so we're starting off the Soft Not Soft podcast, State of Flow. And we just wanted to kind of go over some of our guidelines and things that really mean, I guess, a lot to us internally on our values of what this podcast is all about. So pop that over to Taylor and just kind of explain that.
Sure. I know we were out for drinks the other night and we were talking about how everyone's so hyped on mission and vision statements. Everyone's like, what's your company's mission? What's your company's vision? But we believe that a company should just be grounded in values. Like, what are the 3 top values? And do all the employees and all the people align with them to really push whatever you're doing forward? And this really came from Alex Hermosi when watching him on, I think it was Instagram. I seen a reel where he's like, you have these 3 values. And even if you have superstar people who apply for the job, but they only align with 2 of them, you don't hire them because they will alter your company culture in a negative way. So we sat down, couple of drinks, couple of dinosaurs to be exact.
A couple, more like 10.
Kraft now, Russ now holds the new record.
Yeah, Russ holds a new record at Kraft.
Oh, fuck.
And then Landon actually did a killer job. He just asked us why over and over and over again until we could get to the core of like, why do we do the things that we do? And we landed on 3 values that the 3 of us aligned on, which was authenticity, impact, and freedom.
Absolutely. Got that right. Yeah. It was actually funny, like the whole asking why. I was just like, why do you want to be rich? Well, why that? And it's like that whole, like the 5 whys, it actually is like super impactful when you like do it correctly. You just keep asking why. And then you like, by the 5th, you like crack that person's why.
Yeah.
Like the true why, not the surface level, but like.
Yeah, like the deeper desire.
Are you sure you're not a psychologist by trade?
I mean, you'll never know.
I'll never know.
If he was, he does not want us to know. Yeah, it was interesting that I can't remember exactly what we said, but we all had slightly different answers. But when you put them under an umbrella, it was authenticity, impact, and freedom. Like the freedom of choice, I think, for a lot of us to be able to impact our family, people's lives, to have the resources to be able to say, we love this guy's startup. Let's invest in it, to say, you know what, mom and dad, we're going to send you guys to Maui for a month, like no problems. Impact, like being able to actually like put a dent in the world, do something meaningful. And then authenticity is like, we don't want to be out here just saying what we think we need to say to get views, get clicks, but just actually doing what aligns with us as people.
Absolutely. You said that best.
That is the soft lifestyle.
That is soft, not soft.
Soft, not soft.
So that knocks it out of the park with mission and vision statements. But with Tristan here, especially being a fitness expert, it would be awesome to hear his take on entrepreneurship and drinking alcohol, because we had 10 drinks the other night.
Yeah, we learned that lesson the hard way.
Well, it sounds like the 10 drinks is what led you guys to actually finding.
I mean, that was like 4 in.
It was about 4.
Yeah,
Well,
10 might have been excessive.
By
but
5, we lost the creativity juices. It's like diminishing returns by 5.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, we were no longer talking about business, but just funny stuff, pretty much.
Well, when I saw the actual values, it was at 3:40 in the morning. By a text message by Tay. So I'm just like, are they still going? Woke up in the morning, I'm like, oh man. I think it's funny actually. So the sports psychologist for one of the teams that I train, he's a big guy on like red wine. Red wine's actually very healthy for you in a lot of ways with the antioxidants. It's good to help prevent heart diseases, hypertension. And a lot of people find that they actually get very clear in their thoughts, just even having 1 glass of wine. Even if it's the calming, the soothing. Don't get any ideas, Eileen, when you're going through it. But excessive alcohol consumption, no. 10 sours every now and then, maybe not a bad thing. But
every now and then. Define every now and then.
Like maybe once a year.
You know what's interesting? I actually think it's important for like anybody going into business together, if you do drink alcohol at all, I think you should go out on a night and drink with whoever you're going into business with. I just feel like it's just something you got to do. It kind of like breaks any barriers, but you also like get to know the people, like the person better.
The camaraderie aspect of it.
The camaraderie, yeah.
They're like, oh man, this guy's fucking weird.
Yeah. Literally, you find out, you're like, I'm not doing it anymore.
Well, what even is drinks nowadays? Like, although like yes, alcohol is a poison, it's not good for us. But we'd go drink to socialize, to go meet people, to go on a date with someone, get to know someone. So there is like the good side of alcohol on that front. Again, just don't overconsume.
Yeah, well, you guys all make good points that like going out and having drinks, it was a very like camaraderie like type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think Lana and I were joking that we met like the beginning of this year.
3 months ago.
Yeah, 3 months ago was when we like officially met and started like going into business together. So it actually felt like the first time all of us were like, yeah, we started with talking about business, but we were actually just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
Because we're every time we meet, it's, you know, we're working on a product or we're working on content. But very rarely do we just meet up and actually just talk about whatever and get to know each other as people. So there was something about it that actually felt like we almost needed to do that before moving forward in our business.
I think so. I think like everybody in business needs to do that.
Well, I think even Russ could maybe touch on that too. And I'm not saying it's all of the memories and stuff from playing sports back in the day, but a lot of the good memories and a lot of the good people that you still connect with through that sport. You remember the bads of the drinkings, or hey, do you remember that one party? Hey, do you remember this?
Russ
So
is
there,
like-
Just throws Russ under the bus. Hey, Russ, you want to talk about this?
Russ is just going through his like film flashback.
Yeah. Well, because I remember like that a lot of my memories through college, like I said, it's not all of them, but a lot of the good times and the good people that I remember usually involved a drink or two involved, maybe multiple more, but you do remember a lot of that.
No, definitely. I would say like, well, even for me, like I never played hockey and stuff at the highest level, but my fondest memories are like getting together with the team and after the game. Like I wouldn't say I remember too much of like playing during the season, but I sure remember some of like the big parties we had and like the stuff when we won and everyone getting together. They like rented this like massive cabin one time and had a huge party. Like those things you definitely remember, and it brought you closer with the guys, which is probably what the aspect you guys are alluding to. Is it when you do have a great night with someone, it's like something you connect with. It's fun. You bring it back and it's something to talk about. Now, like moving ahead into business, like I typically don't drink at all. So I have a really hard time because everyone, and I'm in the sales industry, it's so like, hey, let's go grab a beer. Let's go grab a drink. And that's how they always want to like connect and do sales. And it's not awkward in the sense, but just a lot of times like, hey, like I don't like me ripping it up is like less than 5 times a year. Hopefully. Now like just special occasions. So it's just weird. Like even everyone, when you come home, it's like, oh, hey, let's have a couple of drinks. And that's the only way they can actually typically socialize. When I think it's kind of a stigma. Like, why can't you just be like, hey, let's just meet up somewhere and talk? Like you don't have to grab a drink, do whatever. It's almost similar to the same thing with coffee. It's like, oh, you got to invite someone to have a coffee in order to just like talk with them or take that next step. And I don't really know the answer in terms of just being able to go to someone and be like, hey, like I don't drink, but can we just like meet up anywhere? Like how do you actually go about doing that?
I mean, I so what you're saying is like how in the kind of even like the sales world, I guess any kind of in any business world aspect, you're saying how people always end up getting together for drinks, and that's typically where like you'll talk, business can go down, all that kind of stuff. It's like going on the golf course and talking business, but then you're like end up like 10 beers deep. I think from that perspective, you do it well. Like you'll, even if it's like going out for dinner or like even going out for drinks, just like, just get a water and you just like crush waters. And I mean, but like, what else do you do? Like you're not going to tell the person ahead of time, like, oh, I don't drink. Like I'm just going to have a water. You just do it.
No, totally. Like, and you don't be a square about it. Like, you're not just like going on like, hey, alcohol is really bad for you. And like, you go on and on.
No, but I think that's what I mean. Like you still go out. You don't need to have the drinks and you'll still have a good conversation, good time. So
I actually have like a personal beef with red wine because like I don't know how people can like it.
What? Okay, now that's beef right here. I love
Dude.
red wine.
It sucks. Like you're literally like,
Immature palate.
man, oh, dude, you
Somebody
might as well
cor-
just like
somebody
munch
correct
on a
this guy's
pine cone
palate.
and then like fucking squeeze some grapes in your mouth. Like
Oh,
it is not
man.
tasty at all.
You live
I
in
hate
the
it. Like
Okanagan.
I know, and so many people are like, "Oh, you gotta try this red wine." And I'm just
Okay,
like, "Okay,
I'll forgive
fuck.
you if you tell me you like port. Like port wine?
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, fuck.
Is it like Boone's?
No, it's not like boo. Oh, man. You know what?
What's port wine?
It's like it's wine from like Portugal. It's like a sweeter, like almost like a dessert. It's really good for nightcap.
It's really good on ice cream.
I've done that before.
You know what? Maybe if we just like give Russ like a tub of like red wine ice cream for gelato.
He'd enjoy it.
Dude, big ice cream fan. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It probably is just my palate, but I think now that I haven't really drank much, probably the last 5 years, like I no longer enjoy the taste of alcohol at all. Like even crushing those beers, I'm like I don't like the taste of it at all.
Well, you crush it in like 2 sips.
Yeah, the first dinosaur was gone in like 20 seconds.
Yeah, literally. Like
I had to
just
get it
took a-
over.
Took a sip of mine and look over. Russ is done.
You know, going back to what we were talking about, if you don't drink but you still want to go out and network, this is definitely an internal struggle that I have. One, because I do love to drink. Like I genuinely do, but at the same time, I'm really working on going to that next level in my life. And even having one day of being really hungover is like the cost isn't worth it. Like the
No.
opportunity cost alone. Like this weekend, like my dad and my grandma are up. My dad's like, "Oh, it's your birthday. Like, what are you going to be doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got like a bunch of work to do. Like I just don't really take full days off as often as I used to. So even to miss like 4 hours of work to stay consistent every day with what I'm doing, it's just not worth it to wake up and feel hungover. And then I find it's like 2 or 3 days that I don't feel
Dude,
good.
the anxiety after drinking
Yeah, that too.
is the worst.
Sunday scaries.
The Sunday,
The
Sunday
Sunday
scares. Well, even from like a recovery standpoint, like a lot of people say it takes up to even like 48 hours for you to even be able to perform at your best after a night of alcohol. Because what does it do? Like your body, we don't actually have the enzymes in our stomach that can actually break down alcohol. Hence why it's called breaking the seal, and we just flow it out so much. So what it does is it pushes all the other macronutrients to the side. Hey, fat, carbs, protein, go here. We're just going to flow this alcohol out until it's gone. And then what happens to all the other stuff? Gets stored as fat. So we don't actually like rebuild our muscle. We don't actually recover properly. Plus, unless you're blacking out, you're probably not having a great sleep. And that's another big one too.
Okay. Liquor myth here. Tristan, can you bust this one wide open? Whenever you're like out drinking and you're really hammered, someone's like, "Oh, I really need to sober up a bit. I'm going to eat some carbs, have some bread." Does that make any sense at all? Or is that like pure myth?
It's funny. You played for Medicine Hat actually.
Good question.
So I don't know. I won't say I know the exact answer. I met this guy. He was Norwegian. And what he would do, he didn't drink very often, but when he did, I'm going to go 110% into the beers. So every single night before he would go to bed he would have 2 waters and a 2 liter of milk.
What?
Because it was so calorie dense, because like the sugars, the fat, maybe not the sugars is a good thing, but it was so calorie dense that he was like, if I had my 2 liters of milk before bed, I would never be hungover. The food helps for sure. Food definitely helps with the recovery standpoint
How do you
of the
keep
hangover.
that up?
Oh, trust me, man, I don't know. Don't get me after a pink lid after a night of beers.
I think that'd be horrible.
But
Like,
the food and the water definitely helps prevent the hangover. When you actually are sleeping and your body's actually trying to process what you just done to it.
But it doesn't sober you up or anything, does it?
I won't.
Or is it just the
No,
fact
I
that
don't.
does
you're
it
not
like
drinking
absorb
anymore,
or
it's you're eating?
dilute
See,
it?
that I don't know.
Yeah.
That I don't know.
Like in my mind, when I think about this, I imagine I have all this liquor in my stomach. So I eat bread, and then the bread absorbs the liquor, and then my body just breaks down the bread, and it's just like I just get more drunk.
Like a sponge.
It
almost.
like
just
a
like sponges it
sponge.
up, and I'm like, wow, like I'm not getting as drunk, but it's like a delayed fuse. It
That's
just takes
like-
longer to break the bread down, and then when it does, it just hits me later.
It's like the classic greasy hangover meal. You like go to McDonald's or you go somewhere and get like when you're hungover, you just get the greasiest
It's
food.
never worth it.
Dude, that's another one. Why is it that after somebody drinks, they want really greasy, bad food? Because wouldn't your body want good food after a night of just inhaling poison all night?
Let's even just think of like, let's use the example of it. We're always trying to cut out bad foods. So when we consume a lot of like chips or ice cream, do we not always crave it for a while when we're trying to cut it out? So we're consuming the alcohol, the sugars, especially in like rums, our body, we're just like, now we crave it. So then when we're all hungover and we're feeling bad about ourselves, we're just like, well, let's try to make ourselves feel better with some good tasting foods, which really does the opposite, because whoever felt good after eating a Big Mac? No one.
Maybe for like the first 5 minutes when it's in my taste buds. But
Yeah,
after
right.
that-
When it's in the mouth, right? Other than that, I'd say no. I remember I love Costco hot dogs. They're $1.50 and you get free refills. You can't go wrong.
free
They
refill on a
literally-
hot dog.
On
Even
the
Costco
drinks.
poutine is the absolute best.
It's unreal.
Costco poutine, hands down, is the absolute best. Best cheese curds, best fries.
But you have it after a night of drinking. It's not worth it. Not worth it at all. And I agree, the hangover I find is never worth it in terms of productivity the next day. Let's take this room of you guys. Like, you guys have so much on your plate that you can't take a day off. Think about how far behind you would get if you took a day off.
My
Because
bigger
of what?
question is like, how do people just power through? Like,
Yeah.
think
Kalen?
about like the people that like will go out, party hard. Next morning, they're like up at 5 a.m., like at the gym, and just like crushing their day. Like, is this just like different genetics? Like,
I don't know, Tay. You kind of did that the other night.
Yeah.
So
Dude, it's
'Cause,
it's
like-
not sustainable. That's
No.
my experience. Like when Russ says like everyone always wants to meet for drinks, everyone wants to like, I'm like, how do you meet for drinks every day and just be like always drinking and still have high levels of productivity? Like even if we go for a drink midday, like the way it changes my mental state, my productivity is going down, not up. So like I just don't really understand how people can do it. And like the other night I had to be up at 3 a.m. to coordinate business with some guy over in Europe. Like that was after our night of the 10 sours. And like it sucked. And like I really had to push through it. But it was like I knew I had to get it done. So it was like, there's no choice. The boats are burned. Like, let's just keep going. And I will say that I paid the price though. I was up from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. on no sleep, hungover. And then I was supposed to meet you guys. And I almost didn't do it, but I decided to anyways. And the whole rest of my day was just shot because I was so freaking tired. Like my productivity completely gone. So the whole rest of the day was a write-off.
Dude, I'm totally with you. Like, I have a buddy that was down and he wanted to meet at like 8:30 on a Thursday. I was like, hey, like that's too late. Like, I literally can't meet at 8:30 unless it's like something to do with my business. So,
Yeah.
as selfishly as that sounds, like now it's at the point where like it's just drinking and all that is like the least on my priority list. And it probably just comes down to the people that are able to push through it. Like they still view their business as a high priority and having fun and drinking. So they just try to balance it. But they're probably going to like, there's no way that's sustainable.
Yeah, I
Dude,
agree.
we gotta have Mark on here. We gotta like actually ask the guy himself, the legend.
Oh yeah, we will find.
literally.
I
that
do have
guy.
a side note. I'm curious about. You know when you eat those like Costco hot dogs, do you not get the worst burps from it?
Oh yeah, big time.
Like,
but it's
there-
worth it.
I swear, there's like some weird gas in the. Like, I'm not even kidding. There's got to be some weird gas hidden in that hot dog because like anytime you eat it, it is the absolute worst.
Hot
burps.
dogs are the grossest thing on the planet, man. But they taste so good
Yeah.
because all a hot dog is all of the leftover junk from the animal,
Yeah,
like
but
the
they're so good.
intestines, any livers, like
And they
you
just
name
ground
it.
it up,
They just
yeah.
ground it up.
I
and
thought liver was
throw
really
it
healthy,
together.
so
Liver King, man.
Yeah, we have to ask the Liver King. We'll bring
The
him
Liver
on.
King. Liver King.
So panning over from the alcohol, how are we gonna get me up 20 pounds in 1 month?
Man, I'm so excited to do this, and I can't even.
I feel like I'm a maniac here.
The
I don't
fir-
know what the fuck
You
I'm
are.
thinking.
You are crazy. But that's the best part about it is it needs to be crazy. I think it almost needs to be a little over the top to kind of get you to that next level.
It's like
Basically,
the classic like 10x, right?
yeah,
shoot for the moon, you'll land among the
shoot
stars.
for the
my
moon.
friend.
So supposedly so when George St. Pierre made his jump from 170 to 185 to fight Michael Bisping for the title, they wanted to find a fast way to do it rather than this slow process. So what his dietitian did and his trainer is they found that they created this formula how to try to create 20 pounds in 28 days.
Yeah.
Which is actually insane. Like you can't do it. I think the rough estimate is you can maybe gain roughly 2 pounds a month
We could
of
literally pull
muscle,
up
of
what the-
lean muscle
Yeah.
mass. Of lean muscle mass. But when you break down this guy's diet and what he did, and first of all, George St. Pierre is also, he eats, sleeps, and breathes training. That's his lifestyle. So for him, it could be more attainable than, say, someone who works the everyday job, someone who has the 9 to 5, right? So it does make it a little bit easier for him. But just what he was trying to, the amount of food and the training that he was doing was insane. So for Landon, we're going to do 21 pounds of lean muscle mass in 28 days. We're just going to one-up him.
We got to do it.
We have to
I
one-up
mean,
him.
Let's just read what he ate in 28 days. 65 pounds of meat, 54 bananas, 84 scoops of protein, 72 pieces of bread. What else do we got here? 144 cups of veggies. Like just 4 cartons of heavy whipping cream.
What was he putting it on? Like, was he mixing it into?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He made like a pudding, and he was putting it into
Yeah.
a pudding.
Like, holy shit. 72
that might be
squares of
healthier
dark
than ice cream.
No,
Russ is converting.
no. Gonna start having like whipping cream instead of ice cream.
Me and Tate have always joked, like, whenever we have like ice cream cravings, we're just gonna start having yogurt, but it hasn't really worked.
chocolate. No, it hasn't worked yet.
Yeah.
The frozen yogurt.
I did the same thing to get off the chips. As you guys know, I love chips because I love salt. I'm a salt fiend. So I started buying like 5 to 8 cucumbers every time I go grocery shopping. And whenever I crave chips, I just cut the cucumber in half, put so much salt on it, and I'm like, that's how I'm staying away from chips today.
Oh my.
And it actually like it hits the spot. Like
It's a lot of salt.
it is a lot of salt, but I'm just a salt.
You can't even see the seeds on the cucumber. There's so much salt. It's like just like a wall.
I had a friend over the other night and I was eating it and he's like, yo, can I have a bite? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I pass it to him and he goes, ugh. And he like rips the salt off of it and then takes a bite.
Oh. But going back to Landon here, like, do you think a lot will have to do with your training too? Like, because physically, like, actually putting on that much size, like, what would be the best way of going about it? I know me and him were kind of talking about it. Do you think you would still need to train to failure, or like, what kind of scheme do you think would be to maximize that?
Training to failure, I think obviously you need to kind of, science is starting to prove that you got to kind of, it's called an RIR, so reps in reserve, of about 1 to 2. And that's where you can find that happy balance of you're still breaking down the muscle enough, but you're still able to go the next day. And it's not going to completely mess with your recovery. Because if you go to complete failure, it will take that much longer to recover. So in Landon's aspect, although like we got to do we still need to do our cardio, which will be in the form of high intensity interval training in like those short bursts, because you will be utilizing a full body movement during that time. Going to complete failure, I think, will be too much. I think the hardest part for Landon from a training aspect, the weights is going to be the easy part because I'm going to be in there screaming in his face until he gets all of his reps done.
He's going to make sure.
Yeah, that's going to be fine. It's the food and the time to make the food and eat the food and eating that much. He's going to be consuming close to 4,000 calories a day. Just have time to do that is
That's
insane.
a lot.
It's a lot of food.
What do you think I consume right now? Like 2,200 calories?
Maybe.
So that's almost doubling my
Almost
intake.
double.
Like,
Dude, I know how you could
stretch
get
my
all those
stomach.
calories.
Oh.
8-inch DQ Blizzard cake is 6,840.
Oh,
I love how you know
calories.
that.
Let's go.
I love how you know that.
Yeah, I just I don't know why.
Yeah.
But
Choosing this challenge, Landon, what do you think is going to be the hardest part? Especially in terms of like, you know how you are now. What do you think for the next 28 days is going to be the hardest for you?
Part of me thinks it'll be the mental capacity. So like you guys brought up a good point on like how when you train to such a degree, then like you lose your mental capacity after that for whatever. If you got to go do some other kind of work or deep work, focus for whatever you got to do. I think that'll be the toughest part is like just being disciplined enough to like structure it in a way that I make sure that everything I need to do before the gym is like all the hard work is done way before I go to the gym. And then like there's a period just before I go to the gym that I'm like priming myself. I think that's the That's the best way.
I definitely know when you're eating like that, but then say like you're training really hard. And Tristan, you'll be able to answer this, but like in terms of adapting your body, that's human nature. We adapt. But say all of a sudden you get yourself up to like that 180 threshold. It's going to be so much easier to do that once you've done it. The tough part about like consuming that much food and training hard is like you'll have like brain fog and you'll just be tired. You won't have that much energy, especially when your body gets used to packing on more weight. It definitely makes you really tired. And you just like are lethargic.
Feeling a little like sluggish almost.
Yeah, like you're.
So how do we optimize for that? I do not want to feel that way.
I don't know if
basically there's a couple ways I think that we were doing it. I was kind of messing around when I was doing your meal plan, was splitting it up among the day, which I think will also be harder for you since you're such a go-getter. But instead of having like 3 really, really big meals, we're going to have to either split it into like 6 smaller ones, just so then you're not having 1,000+ calories a meal, because that's where you get the sluggishness.
Yeah,
right?
I'm down with that. I agree.
Again, I don't think the workouts, I don't think that's going to be the hard part. I think obviously, yes, your ability to keep pushing on, and when you're really sore some of those days, yeah, man, that's going to be hard. It's just going to be that food and getting the food.
But yeah, the food is going to be, because I'm not a big eater.
No, I know you're not.
No. So it's going to be like very hard.
Or we're just going to have to start putting large amounts of creams in your coffee.
Dude, I like my coffee black too, so.
Something like that.
This does lead to like a good point though. Like going back to what you were saying is, as entrepreneurs, like we want to be fit, we want to optimize our life, but we don't want to hit that training threshold where you work out in the morning and the whole rest of your day is shot. Like similar to drinking, where like we don't want to drink because our productivity matters. And that's what I heard from Russ earlier is he says, you know, like I feel good about getting up and getting after it and growing my business. Like I no longer value going out and having like just one night that is a write-off of 3. Like it's just a difference of value. So Tristan, where's the fine line between getting up and just like getting the reps in to maintain a healthy lifestyle without pushing yourself so hard to failure that the whole rest of the day is just shot? Because we're not like professional athletes here. We just want to be healthy and have longevity and consistency.
Man, I love this topic. When we filmed the podcast a while ago about this, that might have been my favorite one we ever did, because it all just ends on the goal. If your goal is literally just hey, I just want to live a healthy lifestyle, then why are you in there slugging weights until you can't move your arms? Like there's no value in that. The value in getting up early and actually going to the gym to energize you for your day, there's a lot of value in that for sure. And if your goal just happens to be like, man, I've been in the gym for a while, I'm really starting to see some progress, maybe let's take it to that next step. Okay, as long as it's still not affecting your business, affecting your family time, affecting XYZ, then that's okay. But it all depends on what is the main goal. If your main goal is to grow a business and you find after you go do a 5x5 at 315 for squats and you're like, man, I can't walk. You're going to be so sidetracked for the day. Maybe just take it back and put the ego aside, just because you need to be able to do so much more throughout the day. Because like you said, we're not professional athletes anymore. Hell, and I get sidetracked in that too. I'm like, man, I got to get in there. I got to grind, because I got big goals and stuff too in terms of fitness. But I'm like, man, when I can't lift my arm up, I can't help coach my team. I got to toss balls. Like it just inherits me to do that. Right. So I think another big thing is the ego, putting the ego out at the door.
Ooh, that's actually huge, because when you think about it, I'm sure a lot of things from the fitness aspect are just strictly ego driven.
Jacked and tanned.
Rather than cute and fast.
I'm sure there's like a portion of it for me that's like slightly ego, but then it's also just like, for so many years I had this goal of being like, I want to be at like, at first it was 175 pounds of like lean muscle, but I think 185 would make more sense. But that's been like a goal for me for a long time. And part of it is like where I'm like, okay, once I'm at that size, then I'll go like get like I'm thinking of getting a sleeve. So I want to get like a full sleeve, but I'm like, I'm not going to do it until I hit that goal. So I have things in like coordinated that like, now I actually need to hit this goal. Like I'm sick and tired of like having it in my mind for years and years and years. I just need to hit it and get it out of the way. So it's like one of those things that like, it's not going to be optimal to like go that hard, but I just need to hit that goal.
Yeah, man, because it is your goal. It is
Yeah.
part of the goal, right? What you want to do. And think about just like the confidence that you're going to have, man, when you finally get that goal,
Yeah. Well, it'd be huge, right?
right? It's the big things. You wanted to do it for so long.
Yeah.
But in order to achieve that, do you think you'll have to separate some of your other like standards you set? Because like we always talk about it too. Like a lot of people say like you want it all, but truly if you're chasing after big goals, there's going to be things in your life that are going to start lacking.
Yeah.
And we talked about this last time, like where for us now, like business is the number one thing. So we put fitness on the side burner.
Mhm.
So do you think now all of a sudden you will have to put fitness first ahead of your business? What I'm getting at is, do you think you're setting yourself up for unreasonable expectations? Because in order to achieve something you haven't achieved before, do you think you'll have to sacrifice some area in order to elevate that up?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do agree with you. I think like there is the sacrifice aspect, but like for me, right, and maybe this is where like it might lapse within the challenges, like the business is still gonna be number one priority. So but I also think I can just do a better job of like coordinating my time to make sure that it's like optimal, like almost in the sense that like I can do both. While it seems like I'm sure I'm confident that I can figure out how to set in the time to do it.
Yeah.
And it's gonna suck. But like I think there's a way around it.
I think you just said it best, man. It's time. That's all it is. It's just like, when can I find the time to do this? If it's meaningful to you. Because at the end of the day, like you have your goal of that 185 pounds.
Yeah.
But what also comes along with that? Confidence, a healthy lifestyle, your heart stronger. Because at the end of the day, all fitness and working out and exercise and physical activity, we do this although we enjoy it and it's fun. But at the end of the day, it's because so then we don't have to walk around with a walker when we're 75, or we're not in a wheelchair when we're 80.
That would be a good reason to do fitness.
Yeah. Like it's so
Yeah.
when you
let's keep going. But
sorry, so when you keep putting it on the back burner, it's like, okay, there's other priorities and stuff, but at the end of the day, we do want to live that healthy lifestyle. And I think people get really lost in that, me included, where it's longevity is always the one goal. But it's all about making that time to get to that one goal. And it doesn't start tomorrow. It starts today.
yeah, no, you make a really good point. And going back to like Russ's question there, I like the way you're thinking about it, because everything in life inherently has a trade-off. Like it's like a good mental model to actually view the world, is to start like looking at things not as good or bad, but just the trade-offs between your decisions.
Yeah.
And what I do believe, though, is you could have 3 high priorities and you could eliminate your trade-offs between those 3. So if Landon says, what matters most to me is my business, like this fitness goal, and spending time with my girlfriend, I think you could manage that. But the other areas of your life will slip. Even areas that you might not even realize have slipped would have slipped. Like maybe you don't spend as much time with like other friends and networking because you're just working on your current business projects, or maybe there's other things you just genuinely like to do and like to study, or like there's like YouTube videos you like to watch for education that you end up giving like that stuff up. But I do think you could have I think 3 would be healthy. More than that, I think it starts to get harder to like not have trade-offs between them. But you could probably have those 3 things and have very little trade-offs between them.
I think so. I think it's just going to come down to like something that I'm still learning how to get better at, is like good time management. Like I'm horrible at it, like structuring my day, because I'm just so used to just go. Like,
But that's also your business, is like things just come up on the fly.
literally, yeah.
Like, I know, like I think me and you were talking about that. Like I wanted to be able to like, and I almost probably held it too strongly for a bit. Like, this is my schedule and I don't do anything outside of what I've planned. But if your business is like things come up on the fly, you got to find, I think that goes back to like the 7 habits of highly effective people. Like you have the 4 quadrants, like important doesn't need to be done. Like important needs to be done immediately, like not important kind of things. So like the things that come up that are important and need to be done immediately, like you do have to take care of those things as fast as you can.
That's an interesting point to bring up, because this is something that I'm still trying to figure out, is the proper blend between like a fixed schedule and flexibility. Because there comes a point where you're so flexible that you're not being disciplined anymore. But then there comes a point where you're so rigid that it's like unsustainable. And if you were to break your routine at all, like let's say your routine is like, I get up at 5, I read a book, I then do work, I then do this, and you do that for like months on end. Well, how optimal is that going to be if you have to like continue your business and go traveling and break your routine? When your routine is gone, does your productivity go completely out the window because you have no flexibility? But then, and that's where I think actually it's really nice doing this stuff with you guys every week, is there's a level of accountability between all of us that, on these times we do block this out and we show up and we put in the hours, and then we allow our flexibility elsewhere. But I do find if I'm too flexible, stuff can wane, and it tends to be like a form of procrastination or an excuse to not be disciplined.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like now I would say like I definitely had that expectation set where like I won't be able to do my like daily schedule every day, and it was like bugging me a lot. So that wasn't beneficial at all either. So now like I've been trying to transverse into like where what I just say is like, hey, what's the one thing I can do today that's going to move my business forward? I have my to-do list, but I like those are things that are like don't have to get done, and I only work on those if I don't have like stuff that needs immediate attention. But I used to say like, hey, like I only answer clients at this certain time, like I only do these things. And yeah, like I was trying to do that, but the reality is when I was doing that, a lot of times I would forget to get back to people that like needed me to answer them. So I just say, hey, like my first couple hours in the morning, that's when I got to get everything done that's crucial, and then I'm totally available. And then whatever comes your way, you just adapt. And if I have nothing that's coming my way, I just work on my to-do list. And this was like the first couple, like I remember saying like the first couple of weeks, I'm like, frick, I got some time to plan like 8 YouTube videos, where like before I'd never had that really. And it's just weird because you go through those ebbs and flows of your business where you're super busy and then you're kind of slowing down right now. So that's where you really, I would say that's probably the hardest part about being an entrepreneur and discipline, is when those slow times you want to kind of relax, chill a little bit, but it's like, no, you got to get down the stuff that you've been putting off. That's not important, but it does necessarily help your business move forward.
Yeah, you need it to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the consistency aspect I think is really good. Like my old mentor Ross, I think I brought this up maybe even on the podcast. I love that he used to say, I grew up on a farm, animals need to be fed every single day. And it is actually one thing he said that has profoundly changed my life. Because growing up in the West, like being more coddled, I truly was like, I need the weekends off. Like I cannot operate at high capacity unless I take weekends off or I have days off, self-care, mental health. And then this guy who he crushes it. He's super happy. He's productive as hell. No anxiety. He's like, I've never taken a day off in my life. Animals need to be fed every day. I get up and I feed them without fail. And I'm like, wow. So you're telling me it's possible to work every day and not burn out? Maybe it's a belief that we need days off. So then it becomes a consistency play, is, you don't want to grind every single day. It's like the workout analogy. You don't go to failure every day. But if you can just be consistent every day, and, like Russ was saying, there's times where I'm just grinding, I'm doing everything I have to do. And then he's like, oh, well, I don't really have as much to do today. Maybe I'll just chill. It's like, or you just maintain your consistency and you just do the reps every single day. And then.
Yeah. I also think it's like what gives you energy. What takes energy from
that's
you,
good.
right?
Yeah.
So like focusing on doing things that like throughout your day give you that energy, and then what like things each day that take your energy away, just figure out a way to like eliminate it, automate it, or delegate it.
Completely
The
agree.
dopamine detox, man.
Yeah. Well, and actually that brings up a really good point, is like I've been bad. Like I'm bad for scrolling on my phone, and like you'll just end up in a hole and waste hours on like just consuming content. So I mean, technically when I look at it, I'm like, there's the time that I could be focused on meal prepping in the gym. Like that, eliminating that completely, there's my time freed up. So it's more just like it's like making the time to do it. And like when you look at social media, I think everybody's guilty for like scrolling and going on that, but I'm like, I've been super bad with it before. So
I think you made a good point too. Like I kind of lost the thought just a little bit because I got super pumped about the dopamine detox. But just even like that deep work. So like whatever you're going to do, if it's the gym, if you're going to work on your business, if it's having a conversation with someone, like, man, whatever that is, just dive into it for that hour. Put everything else on the back burner. Put the phone away. Don't have a conversation with anyone else. Like, hey, if I'm in the gym, headphones are on, I'm clanging and banging for an hour. No one disturb me. And you know what? It's been so bad. My jaw's been getting more of a workout than I have lately.
Because I just say you picked up when I
exactly right.
you.
I was squatting mid sets having conversation about how we're gonna how we're gonna do this. So I was like, hey man, if you hear me grunt, it's because of mid set.
Dude, you got to get an iPod.
I do need an iPod. Yeah. I need an iPod. I need the circle.
That's the gym hack. Get an iPod so nobody can phone you.
Dude, it's just like I go from my Max Pro to my iPod, and like now it's kind of pissing me off. I'm like, look at this little fucking screen. But it like the buttons are hard to use and all this shit.
Oh,
like,
man.
What I think is even funnier about that is that at first everyone was like more technology, Apple Watch, computer. And now these entrepreneurs are just like, fuck, we got to get away from these distractions because they're killing our business. So all of a sudden it's like dopamine detox. We're deleting all the apps. We're going to the gym. We're taking an iPod and not our phone. Like it's weird that the modern struggle is just to try not to be distracted. Like seriously.
Well, because everything, like attention is the new currency, and essentially we are the product when you consider like with social media. So they just want our attention, and they'll do everything possible to get our attention. These are billion-dollar companies. You don't think they can pay a couple of scientists or researchers, psychologists to be like, hey, what's it going to take to get these guys addicted to our app? Like what small triggers, like subconsciously, do we need to hit to actually like strike a dopamine hit? And
right. Well, we talked about that
it's craziness.
We talked about that. It was maybe a couple of weeks ago. But we talked about when we take breaks, when we actually like take a break from something, when we're actually, what do we usually do now? We go sit on the couch and scroll, or we're going to pop something on the TV.
That's not a break.
It's not a break. You're relaxing, but you're still consuming content.
You're stimulating your mind.
Yeah, right? So he's like, I think we talked about it at the mastermind is what I started doing on my way home because I listened to, screamo and hardcore rap or hardcore EDM dubstep when I'm working out. So I took the headphones out and I just, for the 20 minutes I walk home, it's just birds, cars, and the odd occasional honk.
How weird is it? I've been trying to do that when I drive. Like I used to be big for listening to podcasts, listening to music always when I drive. And then now I've been trying not to listen to anything. Like you just like drive.
Man, you know what?
It's weird.
It's weird, but I do find the thoughts that kind of flow, I do feel like not a surge of energy, maybe like a subtle bit of like relaxation of like, that was kind of my break. And now I'm ready to be like, okay, what's the next thing? What do I need to do next?
Man, I swear to God, I could go on about this topic forever. But I truly believe that like the mind needs to actually process information. Like just because you've learned something does not mean you've processed it. I really love what Naval said on the Rogan podcast where he's like, when I sit down and meditate, I don't focus on my breath or anything. They're all just a means to like relaxation and to getting into that state. He's like, all you want to do is sit there and just allow your mind to do whatever it needs to do without judgment. He's like, and one day, like you'll be sitting down and you're super, like your mind's just so busy. It's just going, it's going, it's going. And one day, if you do it for long enough, over and over again, there'll be that magical day where the mental inbox hits zero and you're just in a state of peace. He's like, you just need to let your mind process. You don't necessarily need to resolve, but you need to process everything. You need to be aware that your mind like has these things that it's thinking about. And especially with how much we consume, like reading books, like education on how to create content. And then we watch shows. And how often does the average person nowadays just sit there in silence and just allow their mind to process the incredible amounts of information that is being fed every day? Like almost never.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting when you think about it. Like even things that you think would be relaxing, like watching a TV show that should be like mindless, like actually takes up mental capacity.
100%. And here's like an unconventional like anxiety hack, I would say. You were talking about trade-offs and stuff earlier. Like people think social media doesn't have a cost because it's technically free. But the cost of it is your productivity, it's your attention. And if you're going to sit down, like being honest with yourself here is super important. Like you guys brought this up earlier and I was like, oh, we got to come back to that is I don't have time for this. I don't have time to hit the gym. Like the other day, like dad was like, hey, are you coming to the gym? And I was like, no, I'm not going. He's like, oh, you don't have the time? And I was like, it's not that I don't have the time. It's that I'm just choosing not to go because I'm not going to lie to myself. If I really wanted to get in the gym, I could get into the gym.
Yeah.
But people are like, I don't have time for things. Or they're like, I'm super anxious and I don't have enough time to get everything done. How long did you scroll on social media today? Don't fuck with me and don't fuck with yourself. Actually be honest with yourself about that. Because if you're anxious that you don't have time to get everything done and you're like, my to-do list is too big and like, I'm just all over the place all the time. It's like, delete your fucking TikTok. Like, honestly.
Literally, there's actually like a study coming out that's like called TikTok brain. And I shit you not, it is like, there is like science behind it that's like talking about how the fast hits of like TikTok and how you're literally just swipe going down, it's changing the way our brains like function and our focus. Like it's, I think, creating more like almost like not ADHD, but
Could.
I did hear the goldfish is able to focus longer than we are now.
definitely can. Yeah.
The goldfish.
I think it was 7
Are you talking about the
seconds.
fish or the cracker?
That
But
too.
yeah, no, you're so right, man. It's
Right?
it's crazy. Like even now, like I'm doing the same thing, and I always kind of was saying like, hey, like I need these social media platforms for my business. And this is going to sound so counterintuitive because like our whole plan on how we're going to scale and sell our businesses on social media is like primary TikTok, like especially what we're doing right now. But like, yeah, like I delete the apps right now, and then like say I have something that I have to post about, you have to re-download it. And it is a pain in the ass, but it's like, hey, like as soon as you're done, you gotta like get out of it, and it makes you way more productive. I think coming back to like your point about like people's time and thinking they're stressed and all that stuff. I listened to Tom Billy like share an example of this and just how like people always try to avoid stress and they think like their lives are supposed to not have any stress, when that is human nature. And I know you talk about this a lot from a psychology perspective. And he just said the way that you're able to handle it is the best analogy is like a car. Say all of a sudden you're starting your new business or you're trying to get in better shape, you're trying to do all this, and you're just in first gear and you're going and you're redlining it. Your car literally isn't capable of going that fast in first gear. You have to be able to shift to the second gear, which second gear would be learning how to like calm yourself when you're getting stressed, like how to do that. And then he says, okay, then you get over to the third gear, and that's where like you learn how to be efficient in your business. You learn how to scale things. You can take on more. And he said, you just got to think of it as like keep being able to go from gear to gear, but eventually you can get to the sixth gear. You can go 180 miles per hour and you're fine with it. And his whole thing is like how he was able to run and scale his business up to a $500 million exit is he's just like, how do I get to the sixth gear fastest where I know I have one little hack that can get me to equilibrium in 45 minutes. And his thing was whenever he was having a tough day or everything was going crazy, he just meditated for 45 minutes. And it was almost like he had this certainty knowing if he did that, he would be totally fine. So it's almost like finding your own personal thing that's like going to do that. Like yours could be the gym. Yours could be maybe you just design something cool in your mobile home or whatever it could be, right? Like it doesn't just have to be the standard meditation, but you do need to find a hack that's going to bring you back down to zero, especially if you're like you're trying to be a high achiever. But just for like the average person, like say all of a sudden you're starting a young family and you know all of a sudden you got 2 kids that are relying on you, you got to take them this way. Like that's no different than starting a business because you're going to be going all over the place. Like you need to find that thing that just brings you down to equilibrium. And it shouldn't be the standard like, oh, I have a glass of wine or a couple glasses of wine to take off the edge. It's got to be something that you can do internally. It can't be like an external source.
That's a good point.
I'm happy you just ended on like that external point because I was like, well, my thing to get amped up for the gym is pre-workout, but it definitely doesn't bring me to equilibrium. That's for sure.
Quite the opposite. Eh?
Very opposite. But it's like, it's just having that drink that I'm like, once I drink the drink, it's almost like I tell myself we're ready. We are now ready to go, which is actually bad that I rely so much on that product, but it gets me pumped up to go.
Yeah, I think when they did like the dopamine studies, one thing was to do with pre-workout.
Oh dear.
Well, even just the classic, like you had a tough day at work. It's like, oh, can't wait to get home to crush a few alcoholic beverages that are going to build up inflammation in my brain to make me feel worse. Like find something like internally that's going to do it. Going for a walk, doing whatever. Like the main point is like, don't just think something external is going to fix your problems, because it won't.
No. And this is where we can kind of bring everything like together, because you're talking about TikTok rewiring people's brains. Like, dude, I keep referencing Atomic Habits because I just can't believe how dense it is. Like, it has like knowledge on everything. Is Atomic Habits is basically saying that you want to be able to delay your gratification. Like, that is a skill that you need to rewire your brain to understand.
Yeah.
Is, you know, I'm going to overcome a little bit of struggle, like in the gym, but the feeling that I'm going to get afterwards is going to be great. Where TikTok and things like that wire your brain to think opposite. They're like, I need instant gratification. And if I have to do anything difficult to get it, why would I do that? And I think what it's done to the younger generation who haven't gone through as much adversity, or like voluntarily gone, like maybe been primed for delayed gratification through sports or things like that. Like, you'll try to get them to work out and they'll do it once. And they'll be like, I just do not like this. Like, I just don't feel good. But they don't realize that it's that they need to rewire their brain for the delayed gratification part of it. And similar when you're talking about meditation, I have found, like, without fail, no matter how stressed or anxious I am or anything, 45 to an hour of just sitting there with my eyes closed, and I will always feel better. Like you said, the certainty of it has never failed me ever. But so many people, they're like really stressed. I'm like, have you tried sitting down and meditating for like an hour? And they're like, oh, my thoughts just go everywhere. It just stresses me out. I'm so anxious. I'm like, have you done it for an hour? They're like, I can't even make it 10 minutes. Have you done it for an hour? Like, it's, you got to like rewire your brain to think different, like be curious and open to, okay, what if we did this for a little bit? Or like wrapping it really all together. You were talking about what's the goal? Like, if you just think about what your goal is, like your goal and your aim will like change the perceptions in your entire life. If your goal is like, I want to be a high achiever, well, there's a certain amount of things you have to do to be a high achiever. So now that automatically structures what you should do within a day. So if you truly don't want to be anxious, or you like truly don't want to be stressed, or you want long-term results, you don't really have any choice but to learn to delay gratification and start to like do these like harder things that are, you know, they don't feel as good instantaneously as scrolling TikTok, but you will get what you want in line with that goal. I think that just really like brings it all together.
Yeah, you said that great.
I got nothing else to add on that.
Yeah, like I think just drop the mic at this point.
Yeah, it's good.
Knock the stand over.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great way to kind of bring it all together and sum it up. And I mean, one way to, like, you know how we were talking about trade-offs? I mean, social media is a trade-off, right? So in one way, like, if you look at like, okay, well, what's the trade-off for attempting to gain 20 pounds, right? Well, for me, I'm saying, okay, well, social media is going to be that trade-off.
That's what you're
Yeah. Right? So.
That's a great trade-off, man.
Yeah.
That's a worthy trade-off.
Dude, you're
Big time.
You're gaining 20 pounds of lean muscle mass, hypothetically speaking, we hope.
Yeah.
And you're doing a dopamine detox all at once.
And getting a sleeve afterwards.
And you're getting a sleeve. So then you get to
Yes.
spend a large amount of money as well.
And like, I'm not a needles guy, so I don't know how I'm going to get through the sleeve, but
It's not that bad, eh, Russ?
Some spots suck.
but I like, it's one of those things that's like, I've wanted one for so long that I'm like, you almost just got to do it. You know what I mean? Like you want a good example? Like my dad, like 4 or 5 years ago, on his birthday one day, like it was, I think it was like 4 years ago. And for his birthday, he literally just like drove to a like tattoo parlor and just got like a tattoo on his back. First tattoo ever. And he like didn't tell anybody. He just like shows up to this place like, yeah, just want like he had this like picture in his office for like, I don't know, probably 15 years of like lions and palm trees and stuff like that. So he got on his back. Didn't even tell me for like almost a month. And then I like saw it and I was like, is that a fucking tattoo? But I was just like, also like, I respect that too. Like, shit, you know what? Just make a decision one day and you're just like, fuck it. I've wanted this for so long. I'm just going to do it.
Landon's dad's back is just one big lion head with some palm trees.
Just on his
coming
shoulder.
off the
Just
top.
on his like right shoulder. But it's just one of those things that, you know, like there's always people that want to do something and then you almost just like never get to do it, or you never get to doing it. That's like for me is like with the sleeve, I'm just like, I just fucking got to do it.
be like almost no different than like you moving out here to Kelowna. Just like, just go do it.
Yeah. Exactly. Great decision too.
You know, I feel like tattoos are a form of delayed gratification, honestly. Because when people say that like it's addicting, it is weirdly addicting. Like I went and got just
Really?
my forearm done and then I was hooked and I just kept going back. Like it hurts, but I think there's something to do with like the reward circuits of your brain where you sit through like that much pain and like adversity and like stress. And
You
then
value it more?
you do like you see like the tattoo after and it looks fresh as fuck right after you get it done. It looks so sick. And you're just like, I like earned that.
Yeah.
Like it sounds ridiculous, but like, you actually put your body like through a lot of stress to get it. Like my chest tattoo is the most painful tattoo I ever got. But afterwards I remember looking at it and being like, I legit like just earned that by sitting through that pain. And it like feels fucking good.
Also, just think how much money they are now too. You have to earn that money to be able to get that art,
Yeah,
right? Like
what's
Russ,
what's
like
your arm
it
worth
was
there,
crazy, man.
Russ?
I stopped keeping track, but I think my half my arm and my chest was like $4,000.
Yeah, right.
And that was like a long time ago. Like the guy was only charging about like $120 an hour. I don't know what they would charge now. Like last time I spoke to him like 2 years ago, I thought he said he was like charging like $160 now. Maybe a bit more. So I wouldn't really know how much more. You could probably say like it was like maybe
Close to 10 grand, probably.
yeah, like maybe less than that.
$10,000 arm right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's a good arm.
Hell yeah, guys. Well, we're at pretty much the hour mark. So call it there on Soft Podcast episode 3. Tris, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Very soft, not soft of you to have me on.
State of flow, baby.
All right. See you guys next week.